So if you would take us a little more in depth into what the program entails, how the curriculum is played out. I know you said that it's about 20 to 30 hours. Tell us a little more about how that time is spent, and then some of the feedback you've gotten from participants.
Sure. So as I've said before, we start out with a survey to see how they feel about cybersecurity. Then we work their security goals into their mission and develop that. The next stage after the assessment, but we don't call it that because it's unfriendly, is we help them work the inventory. So a lot of small business owners, maybe they're 2 or 3 people and they have everything in the cloud. And when they list all of their cloud systems and all the cloud apps that they have, they're usually pretty shocked. And they realize that if they had one person turnover, they might actually lose access to a system because especially if it's a sudden death situation or something horrible like that. So they start immediately as going through their inventory. It's a real aha moment for them. They learn what the internet service provider installed in their business and what gaps they might need to fill on their own. For instance, the ISP might have just put in a cable modem and a wireless router, but not a firewall. And so they probably need to go buy a firewall. But it's not an expensive, that sounds expensive to a lot of small business owners, but really you can get a small business firewall for a couple $100. So it's not like it has to be, thousands of dollars of investment. And we make sure that that's really clear as we go through the program. And then, so once we finish the inventory, then by then they've really kind of thought, oh, this is what I have. This is what I'm missing. And here's what I want to do to mitigate it. And that's when, according to social work principles, we're providing them instances where they can have a success rate. They are successful at what they're doing. Experiences of success. And now they're gaining confidence. And so now they're ready to write their policies. And normally for a small business like that with 10 people or less, they basically need an administrative policy. Here's what we're going to do behind the scenes that the average employee doesn't necessarily need to know. They need to know that we have backups going and they shouldn't mess with them, but they don't necessarily need to know how the backups are running, that they're offsite, that there's onsite, and there's a copy at the accountant's office as well. But the manager of that business needs to know that. And so we have an administrative side policy, and we boiled our policies down from the big standards, the SANS Institute and the NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. We boiled all those down to what these really micro businesses need. And then the next policy we run is we help them write as their employee policy. And the final one is the incident response plan. And so that employee response policy is primarily for what are the employees responsible, and it's primarily information protection and learning about phishing. If you've got those 2 things, I know not to put this spreadsheet out on this Google Drive, for instance, because it's got social security numbers and it's not password protected or encrypted. If employees know that, that's half the battle. It's all about user access and understanding what information is considered sensitive. And then the incident response plan is the final thing that we do with them. And that's primarily who, what, when, where, why, and how. We use the journalism model. So we think of every horrible scenario that could happen. And then we go through who, what, why, where, when, and how. And how are they going to recover is the biggest one, of course. But, who's in charge of what is a big one too. And what data is on that network attached storage drive, or what data is out on their Google Drive. What happens if they lose access? Let's say they're a legal office or a lawyer, and they have a subscription to legal software up in the cloud. What happens if they lose access to that for 2 weeks because that company got hit? How are they going to manage and continue on with their business? So there's a lot of discussions that we have there, and we just walk them through it. But by the time we hit those policies, they've already gotten their brain kind of, oh, now I understand. Here's what I want to do.
That's pretty awesome, Laura, and detailed and thorough. I love it. And I love that, these frontline employees are getting to see things that generally are only shown to, the tech side of the house, the IT professional. that we're looking actually to push out to everybody in the organization. But I love that you're bringing in everybody in the organization so they have the opportunity to participate and learn about these things.